again, everybody. And I would just like to introduce you now to John Joe O'Farrell. So John Joe is the Director of International Engagement at GMIT, Galway Mayo Institute of Technology. And John just going to give us a brief 10 to 15 minute kind of chat about engineering and technology pathways and careers through GMIT. Again, there will be time maybe for a couple of quick questions, but you can also visit GMIT in their booth where you can ask John Joe any more detailed questions about GMIT specifically. Thanks very much, and over to you, John Joe.
Now, can you tell me, Ray, whether you can see my screen?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
And can you tell me if I go large screen, will that still share?
Go for it if you put it into presentation mode. Yep, all good.
That's still working?
Yep, all good.
I'm just going to change my camera now because I'm using two screens. Okay, so hopefully you can still see me there. Okay, so thank you everybody, and it's great to be here today at the DIFC Virtual Pathway Fairs. So I'm just going to give you an introduction to both GMIT Galway and some focus on engineering and technology opportunities, in particular at GMIT. Some of you may already be in Ireland, of course, studying your foundation program at DIFC. Some of you may be joining in from overseas and still considering your options. But either way, Galway is a very, popular and a very kind of a central hub in Ireland. Dublin is obviously the capital. Galway is just across on the beautiful west coast. So it is a very popular tourist destination, if nothing else. But of course, a very prominent education hub within the country itself, and a very popular student and university town. This is just the centre of the town, Ayr Square. This is the Blackrock Diving Tower. It's a very well known icon in Galway, out past Salt Hill. And a lot of people like to jump in here at Christmas time in particular, but it can be quite cold, so have to bear that in mind. We are a very synonymous city when it comes to food and culture. Galway really has the best to offer, in terms of gastronomy, and we have an absolutely fantastic restaurant, scene within the city itself. So it's very popular even for people to do walking tours and eating walking tours of the city. We have more food festivals than any other part of the country. So it really is quite a unique location for people interested in food and culture. And that's been recognized through the European program, both the European Capital of Culture and through the designation as a region of gastronomy. Of course, Lonely Planet, are instrumental in highlighting unique tourism cities all over the world. And, Galway was fortunate that, we were named in the top 10 cities, in the 2020 rankings. So that's quite, an extraordinary achievement for such a small city in a small country. But it does, demonstrate, how favourable tourists and tourism bodies, look at Galway itself. This is just an example of some of our successful alumni. This is Pedro, and Pedro is a graduate of our software development program in GMIT from 2018. Pedro hails from Belo Horizonte in Brazil, and he has a very prosperous career carved out for himself already as a software engineer at Ericsson in Athlone. So I suppose it further demonstrates the opportunities that are available to students and graduates of GMIT, particularly from some of our very popular programs in the engineering and technology fields like software development. It's just a picture of our main campus where we teach most of our engineering, science and technology programs. The library is quite unique, designed to replicate the sails on a ship, fitting in with our natural landscape. We are a city by the sea, so we try to in some way shape our campus to fit in with that atmosphere. And the foyer is a very popular place just outside our library, and there's a cafe in the corner there. So you can see more pictures on our website. We are a growing institution. We have nearly 8,000 students from over 70 countries, so it's quite a melting pot for the different nationalities. We've got 5 campuses spread across 2 counties in Ireland, being Galway and Mayo. And in Mayo, we have a particular focus on health science. And at our Mount Bellew campus, we have a focus on agricultural science and engineering. And at our Connemara campus, we have a focus on furniture design. And then lastly, at our CCAM campus, which is our School of Design and Creative Arts, we obviously have a focus on the arts, such as contemporary art, design, architectural, and a number of those kind of programs. We also have some research expertise in the area of marine and freshwater, again fitting in with our natural landscape. We are surrounded by water even in this country, and we do a lot of research around conservation and preservation. And then in engineering technology, we do a lot of research here because we are a pivotal part of that medical diagnostic ecosystem within Galway, and we do a lot of research there to ensure that our programs are relevant and that we're involved and that we provide support to all of the employers in the area, when they're taking part in some major research grants. And that's particularly important to make sure that there's going to be a pipeline of jobs for the future for people in these areas. And we have incubation centres there as well, which will help. Lots of our students will go on internships within client companies that are co-located on our campus in the innovation hubs. So once again, that is also a key part of our strategy for future employment in the area and spin-out companies. Some of the programs, I suppose, that we have that I'd like to focus on in engineering and technology discipline will be software development, computing and digital media, biomedical engineering, architecture technology, business information systems, design, animation, game design, and energy engineering. I can't go through them all, but I'm going to just touch on a few of them. So I will look at business information systems. And really, I suppose, business information systems, has had exponential growth probably in the last 10, 15 years. And, really it is the hybrid and I suppose it's the convergence, of technology and business. And as Bill Gates put it in this lovely quote, that the two are, interlinked and they're inextricably interwoven. So you can't really talk about one without talking about the other. And I think that is important because it's very easy to say that, oh yeah, well, technology is more important than business. But both go hand in hand, and each industry is reliant on the other. This kind of, I suppose, picture kind of depicts the situation a little bit, that there's a bit of a gap or a chasm between what the CEO and the business guy knows and what the technologist knows on the other side of the cliff, if we can imagine somebody else at the other side. And we need somebody who can bridge that gap. And in essence, that's what the business information systems graduate, or most commonly known as a business analyst, that's what they help them do. They help analyze this information, they help make it comprehensible, and they arrange it and organize it in such a way to, I suppose, aid better decision making at the top of these companies, for business and financial managers. So that is really what the BIS graduate is doing. And hopefully they alleviate some of that anxiety for companies. And a business analyst is not just hired for companies in the tech industry. Business analysts are hired across all of the different industries, because every company has information flows, and if you don't manage your information flows, going from customer relationship management to all sorts of data and statistics, then it becomes unmanageable. So that business analyst is essential because they help you create and develop systems, and they also help you to work with software development specialists to ensure that the right systems architecture is put in place to facilitate the management of that information that I've been discussing. Some of the key topics that are studied in this program, you obviously have to start with the foundations, and you need to understand how the business environment works. We now need to look at data analytics. This is, really important for companies so that they can reflect on the information that they're receiving and that they're gathering, so that they can make sense of that, and then obviously, change, how they go about making decisions, taking that latest real-time data into consideration. The systems architecture is key, because that is the foundation. And if the systems architecture is wrong, well, then you are in trouble. So you need to go back at the start. So that's very important that our students understand that as well. You need to understand the typical management areas such as HR, finance and marketing as well. And you have to have an understanding of them. Cloud and web systems development, and particularly an introduction to JavaScript, although it's not the core part, of the program, but it is important for students to understand this. So there will be that basic introduction to some programming skills. And then I suppose as well, leadership and strategy to ensure that I suppose you become a project manager as well in one sense when you graduate from the program. And many of the jobs that you will take up as a young graduate, will require leadership skills, because you need to be able to bring, projects from concept the whole way to execution. So that's important. And of course, you're going to have soft skills and technical skills, at the end of the program, both which are equally important in industry, because you can have the best tech skills in the world, like figuring out how to develop a website. But if you don't know how to work within a team, if you don't know how to finish your project by writing up, a very, top level report, then you're not going to be valuable to a company. So those two categories of skills are important. If we look at software development for a minute, again, Ireland obviously is well known, as the Silicon Valley of the European Union. So this is one of our most popular programs. There is 100% employment rate from this program for both international and domestic students. It looks across 4 main thematic areas across the different years of the program. It's a 4 years in duration. First year, you start with a basic introduction to a whole range of programming languages such as Java, C#, C++, web development, and you look at computational problem solving as well. It'll get a bit more advanced, obviously, as you progress through the program. And in year 2, then we will look at object-oriented programming, and you'll start to look at kind of basic algorithms as well, and data structures. And obviously mobile programming is essential now, and mobile security is becoming more and more important. In the 3rd year, then you start looking at software testing, and software testing is very important because in practical terms, when you graduate, that's what a lot of the roles at the early stage of your career involved. It's you're not going in, let's say, you're reinventing the wheel. A lot of the companies that you will work for will have all the technology in place. So essentially, it's your job to make sure that these programs and some of the hardware as well, to make sure that they continue to work. But so you'll be doing programming tests, and you'll be running them on a daily basis. Because if some of that software goes down, it can really have transformative negative impact on the company, where they will lose so much money. So that is an essential day-to-day part of your job. And then artificial intelligence, I suppose, is touched on at the end of the program. And obviously, that's becoming, a very, highly sought after area, and it's quite a complex area. So many people go on then really to study further, in the form of postgraduate education, because to specialize more in that particular area.
John Joe, obviously, I know it's short timing, but I've been asked a question to put to you, which is, do students who have Irish passports but live outside the EU get fee discounts?
So, sorry, say it again, Ray. I couldn't hear you there. Students who have.
So, if student has an Irish passport but they're they're living outside of the EU, are they eligible for fee discounts at GMIT?
Okay, so any EU passport holder, regardless of where they're living, applies to the CAO, which is the main system in Ireland for managing the admission of EU citizens, including Irish ones. So the answer is there's different categories within that. So what the institute has to do is, when you apply via the CAO, which means you have to meet the deadline, Ray, which is sometime in February. And if you meet that deadline, then what happens is in mid-August, after the CAO offers are made, you will be sent an application form to conduct a fee assessment. And that fee assessment will take into account things like where you're living, if you've ever lived within the EU or not, and if or not you paid tax at any stage, or your parents in the EU. And essentially, based on that assessment, you will find out what you will have to pay. But you can take it for granted that it will be less than the non-EU fee.
Yeah, because normally what will happen is the student, it depends on where they've studied consecutively for the last 3 years. So in the normal course of events, what we would advise people is, you know, for your foundation year and maybe the first couple of years of your undergraduate degree, you will be subject to non-EU international fees. And then they could make an application with GMIT to switch to EU fees based on having an Irish passport. Is that correct?
No, that kind of system is slightly changed now. What you've mentioned there, that they're part of the criteria still, but the process in GMIT is that if you hold an EU passport, regardless of where you're living, you apply to the CEO, they make a fee assessment for you, and essentially it means that your fee would probably be somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 euro, as opposed to the 9,000 euro fee.
Okay.
But if you don't hold the EU passport, then you automatically apply to the international office and are paying the non-EU fee. Some students have opted, Ray, to still apply as a non-EU applicant because they've missed the CAO deadline.
Well, obviously for students coming through DIFC, it will be slightly different anyway, because they wouldn't be applying until September 2022 if they required a foundation program to get into you. So what we could do is discuss with GMIT on a case-by-case basis any EU passport holders and seek GMIT's advice. Because we're a little bit tight on time, what I would like to do is direct anybody who's got more detailed questions for GMIT, if they want to speak to John Joe. John Joe will be available in the GMIT booth, and you can ask all the questions about GMIT and also the work opportunities both during the undergraduate degree and post-study as well. John Joe, I know that was a little bit brief, but thanks very much for joining us today. And for everybody then, we will be returning to the main stage at 11:30, where we'll be joined by Helen from Maynooth University, who'll be talking about business programs. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ray.